Yesterday that I took 50 minutes. Usually it's 40, inshallah. This morning, inshallah, we'll continue with the Tafseer of Surat Yaseen. We stopped at ayah number 54, and we'll do from 55, inshallah, to 67 this morning, and then next weekend, which is the last weekend, we'll complete, inshallah, and conclude the surah. And yesterday, the angle or the perspective that was being shared were the reasons or the barriers that exist between people and their ability to live what we call hayat al-qulub, which is a term that is actually much more common than most people believe or are used to. It's a term that is used a lot in the books of suluk and tazkiyah. And it's talked a lot about among scholars because it's one of the main purposes of our deen and of what it teaches. Yes, taking care of the body and taking care of the physique and your health, your physical health is of great importance in Islam. But taking care of the health of your qalb, of your ruh, what happens on the inside, is equally important and must be treated as such. And the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offers and has sent humanity over the millennia has been designed to offer that, to provide it for us, that hayat al-qulub, the life that you find inside yourself, inside your heart. And the barriers are, he pointed out 3 barriers, subhanahu wa ta'ala, yesterday when we recited the verses. Number 1, the lack of ability to reflect. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّقُوا مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَمَا خَلْفَكُمْ. To reflect upon that which has happened before or that which is coming ahead of them in their future. If you lack the ability to reflect and contemplate and learn and benefit from the lessons that are available to you, then that's going to be a barrier. And the second one is, if you live life selfishly and materialistically, then that's a big barrier. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ. When they're told to give, they make an argument that is quite ridiculous, driven by their own greed or their selfishness and their materialistic approach to the life that they live. The third one was the nature of the question that they asked. مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. When is it going to occur? This question is very superficial. It lacks any degree of depth. And if you're not able to ask the right questions, then you're not going to get the right answers, and you're not going to be able to make the choices that will benefit you. Which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concluded this chapter with the verses that where He described the Yawm al-Qiyamah. He described the first nafkha, and He described the second one. What happens in between, what happens afterwards. And really, anyone who's reciting them, who has certainty in the occurrences that he shared here, subhanahu wa ta'ala, will by far be more interested in preparing himself for what that, or herself, for what is awaiting, rather than asking about the exact dates for them. So this morning, we'll continue, inshallah, with the verses as they continue to talk about what occurs after Yawm al-Qiyamah. And breaking down the surah in a way that allows me to do tafsir in 8 sessions is actually quite difficult. So we'll continue, inshallah, with ayah number 55, and it continues to build on what we had recited yesterday morning. Like, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون.
إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون.
هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون.
هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون.
لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون.
لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون.
سلام قولا من رب رحيم.
سلام قولا من رب رحيم.
There's no remnants of the noon in these mir. So you go from the meme right to the ra, mir, and then you do the same thing in the second one, bir, mir, mir, rabbir. There's no noon at all. It doesn't. There's nothing left of the noon or the tanween. So the lam kamil. So you shouldn't hear any aspect of the noon, and there should be none of the noon coming through your through your nose or through your tongue. So mir rabbir rahim. The noon is completely gone. That's not always the case, but for this, that's how it's recited. The ra, when you have a noon sakin or a tanween, and after there's a ra, the noon completely gets dissolved. It disappears completely. وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts this and continues. After he spoke about يوم القيامة إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. It'll just be one call and everyone all together will be brought. فَالْيَوْمَ لَا تُظْلَمُ نَفْسٌ شَيْئًا. And today there will be no soul that will be mistreated. There will be no unfairness, there will be no injustice. وَلَا تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And you will only be rewarded by that which you have done in your lives. And then he describes subhanahu wa ta'ala the outcomes. إِنَّ أَصْحَابَ الْجَنَّةِ. Indeed, the people or the inheritors of Jannah, of paradise. Today, الْيَوْمَ فِي شُغُلٍ فَاكِهُونَ. And he uses the word shughul. And the word shughul means being busy. There's really no other way to explain it. Shughul with the ghain sakin is work. Shughul with the ghain alayha dhamma is when you are busy, mashghul. You have a lot going on. So you have no time to spare. You're preoccupied by something. So fi shughulin fakihun. They are busy and preoccupied by their leisure. Fakihun. Tafakkuh is to perform actions that have no purpose aside from personal pleasure. That's al-fakih. That's why the word fakiha, as we're going to read in a moment, is fruit. We use that to describe fruit because for Arab, fruit was not the meal. You ate just for the sake of enjoyment. Like you had already had your meal. Like you quenched your thirst with the water and you filled your belly with whatever any bread and rice they had made, and then fawakih is just brought for a grape and a piece of batikh, something that you enjoy. You're not hungry. You're not eating it because you're hungry. That's the so they call that fakiha because you're not eating it with the intention of ending your hunger. You've already done that. So now you're just enjoying the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by eating it. So fi shughulin fakihun. And they are enjoying themselves, they're having a good time, but they're preoccupied by it. And shughul is the only time this word is used in description. There's a very specific description of Ahl al-Jannah, that they are preoccupied, they're busy. The description is filled with life. A lot is going on. And this is important because in a surah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us about life, about living life appropriately, living life fully, in comparison, in contrast to the death of the heart and the death of the spirit and ghafla and all the other problems that it faces, he describes for us Jannah in a way that he doesn't describe it almost anywhere else in the Quran. A very common problem that I've noticed amongst younger Muslims is their perception of what Jannah is. The perception that they have of it is actually quite depressing. Like the way they've imagined it or see it is quite boring. That life is very exciting, but then Jannah is going to be boring. Khalas, there's no risk anymore. There's no joy. There's no adventure. There's nothing. So it's all good. You play a sport, you win all the games. You courtship, they all take you in. You visit somewhere, the visas are all open. Like there's nothing. There's no trials. There's nothing interesting going on. And that is, it couldn't be farther away from the truth. That's not truthful at all. What exists in Jannah is just the removal of death the removal of disease, and the removal of depression and sadness. That's what is removed in Jannah. That's it. You don't end up in a place where there's no stimulation, where there's no intellectual or mental or physical stimulation. It's the opposite. You get, and if you think about the Creator Himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what possibilities exist. It's infinite. There's an infinite number of possibilities of what has existed or could have existed or most likely exist. We're a very small piece of something much bigger than ourselves. Much bigger. And we're very simple, by the way. Like, we're not that complicated. As creations, like as creatures, we're not that complex. And even we figure that out. Like, as an organism, if you look at Earth as this big organism, breathing and eating and drinking, it's not that complex. And we're part of a very small solar system within the cosmos. We don't take up a lot of space. We don't take up a lot of effort. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ala kulli shay'in qadir. What He created is much larger than us, and there's much more than us. When you are in Jannah, you are exposed to all of that and more, to that which you have no ability to actually comprehend or even imagine or think about. And you come in with an experience that taught you the importance of gratitude and perseverance and love and resilience. And you're much more, like, you're rigged in a different way. In this dunya, is the main trial is just your ability to acknowledge and realize how special the experience that you have is, so that you may appreciate it. Because for you to be in a position where you have access to the knowledge of the Divine subhanahu wa ta'ala and the creations that He has made and the experiences that come with all of that, you have to have that appreciation, or else you don't treat it well, or you take it for granted. You're very unique in the sense that you have this ability to choose between right and wrong, and you're not forced really to make that choice. Every other creation is just put on a track, and it just moves within that track. I don't want to say mindlessly, but it doesn't really have the ability to make a decision. I don't want to move. I'm not going to continue in my orbit, or I'm not going to behave this way. All the creatures that are around us, they're fascinating to watch. They really are. But this is how they're going to always. There's no option. For you, there's an option, which is why you're a steward, which is why you're a caregiver, which is why you're responsible, because you can make choices, because you can manipulate the environment around you, because you can affect it and impact it heavily. Because you have that choice, you are responsible for those that don't have that choice. And the human race has forgotten that completely. And because we've forgotten that, we have almost fried our planet into oblivion. And we have ruined the environment for most creatures around us, making it available only for ourselves. And that just comes from lack of understanding what the role is, what the job actually is. But we're not that complicated as a species. And when you're in Jannah, you're exposed to all of that, to everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made, to a creation that's way beyond what you could possibly imagine. When He talks about Jannah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about something that's the gates are as bigger than the earth. The sovereignty of one Muslim in Jannah, which is the lowest, is multiple times the earth itself. Multiple times, up to 9 times. That's just the places that are exclusively for you, that you can go and explore and look into. Imagine what else exists that is not owned by one person, one or two. So to think that Jannah is a place that life is boring and there's nothing to do and there's nothing to explore, to me is just a lack of imagination. It's lack of ability to have an imagination. What you lose there is just that piece. What we have here in dunya that is problematic for us is not the fact that that you lose or that you fail. It's the depression that comes with that. It's the sorrow that comes with that. It's the disease that is a potential in life. The death, all of that, the harm, pain, oppression. These are the things that are a problem in dunya. In Jannah, that's not going to be a problem anymore. First of all, many of these things are removed. Secondly, you have a different perspective. In dunya, when you lose, because you don't have the proper perspective yet, it hasn't been built yet, you can overreact to it. You can overreact to a loss. You can overreact to something, because the perspective isn't there. You think after going through Yawm al-Qiyamah and making it to Jannah, you're going to be bothered by playing a game and losing it, Or you're going to be bothered by these things? You're not going to be bothered by these things anymore. Why? Well, because the perspective has completely changed. Your understanding of reality has shifted heavily because of what you now understand, what you know, what you have witnessed yourself, what you have lived through, where you are and in whose presence you are, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So life is different. The way you understand life is different. You're still you. It's still you. It's just it's a heightened level of consciousness and knowledge that allows you to enjoy what is put in front of you way more than you would ever been able to do beforehand. So you still compete and you'll work towards different achievements and you'll probably lose and fail and things may not work out the way you want. But your perception of all of that is different. The way you experience life is a completely different level because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has removed certain things so you don't die and you don't get sick and you don't go broke and you don't have to deal with poverty and you're safe and you're secure and there's no oppression, there's no tyrants and but at the same time your perspective of life is much different. So you're not bothered by the things that you were bothered by in dunya. In dunya we're bothered by a lot of things not because they're actually bothersome, but rather because we don't have the right way of seeing it. Like our perception is off. We're short-sighted sometimes and we're closed-minded because we haven't really thought about things in depth. This is why when we talk about mortality, for example, when we talk about this topic, topic of death, those who experience it or come close to experiencing it or take time to really reflect upon it and feel the closeness of his experience, it changes their perspective. Just something simple like that in life will change your perspective. Suddenly the petty differences that you have with your spouse don't matter that much. The things that cause you not to have good relationship with your siblings, you forget what they are. You start valuing things you start actually seeing what's valuable. And the stuff that don't matter that much, they just start to slush off a little bit. Why? Because death puts things into perspective. Imagine that you go through death, and you go through barzakh, and you go through the first nafkha, and the second. Then you make it across the sirat, and you think you're still going to have the petty interests and ghiba and namima and hasad. And these are all petty things that we carry as human beings. They're just based on ignorance, honestly. And a perspective that is immature. The moment this is done, the moment you go through all of what you go through, none of that matters anymore. Or you think people are in Jannah still sitting down talking about each other. You're not going to make it there if that's how your mind works. Don't worry, Yawm al-Qiyamah will completely rid you of it. Yawm al-Qiyamah will rid you of all of these immature feelings and thoughts that exist. So that when you enter Jannah, you're entering it with a very different mentality. Leading to inna ashab al-jannati al-yawma fi shughulin fakihun. They're very busy. They have very little time. They don't have time. There's too much to do. There's too much to explore, too much to learn, too much to enjoy. Fi shughul, they're busy. Fakihun though. It's not labor. Because busy is a scary word. It could be. I don't want to be busy the way I'm busy here. I don't want that busy. I want a different type of busy. Which is what he explains here. فِي شُغُلٍ فَاكِهُونَ Whom, them, وَأَزْوَاجُهُم and their spouses. So it's not alone. They don't go there alone. Loneliness is a problem in this world that we live in. It really is. You can be alone. It's healthy to be alone. It's healthy to take time alone and to spend time alone. But loneliness, to be lonely, that's not okay. And the older people get, the more lonely they become. Wallahi, I have people come into clinic just because they want to speak to me. Wallahi. They come in just because they want to, chit-chat for a little bit. Because this is like their only social interaction they're going to have for the month. And I'll say, no, you don't need to come in. It's a 2-hour drive. I'll just call you over the phone. Yeah, your scans look good. No, I'll come in. Yeah, you're fine. There's no need to. No, I want to come in. I don't have no time to it but people are lonely. Yeah, it's very upsetting, wallahi. It really is. How we've, turned. It used to be different. Bayt al-Aili used to be a thing, right? The house of the family. The people, they got older, but their children and their grandchildren all around them. There's always someone to pick them up, take them, help them, feed them, clothe them, take care of them, speak to them, be around them. People lived better. Maybe they didn't live as long, but they lived well. I remember when I first came here, this is 2013, October. I remember this very clearly. I didn't have a car yet. And someone told me I should go give khutbahs at Mile. So I did. That was a very short-lived experience, I can tell you that much. And my father took me, he would take me with his car to go there. So I did that a few times, and there was this elderly man, I think he was Syrian, maybe he's Lebanese, I can't remember. But he halaf, I think 6 yameen that we're going to come and visit him after Salat al-Jumu'ah. So my dad and I went to his house in South. I don't not remember this man's name, unfortunately. I don't know if he's around. This is like 12, 13 years ago. So we entered his home, and I think both myself and my father, walked away from this experience very concerned. Like, we didn't speak to each other the whole way back. This man's house and his wife, elderly wife, was just very sad. It was just a sad situation. And these two people were extremely, extremely lonely. And for the life, they wanted us to stay for as long as we could. They just wanted someone to talk to. They had 6 children. They had 6 children, all of them married, all of them, none of them living close by, none of them around at all. And I remember my dad told me like a week later, I think, because I thought about this for a while, I don't want to die here. I agree with him. And I agree with him because in the village, elderly men, they have things to do. They wake up in the morning, they make wudu, they go to Salat al-Fajr, they sit after Salat al-Fajr, they bicker for like an hour. They read maybe 2 pages of the Quran the whole time. They bicker the whole time. They're just arguing with each other. But they have someone to argue with. It's healthy to have someone to argue with. And you need someone to, aside from the same person. And then they go, they take a nap, they wake up, there's someone in the house making futur. One of their children, one of their neighbors is going to call them to eat. They go for dhuhr, they come back. They have a social life. Right? They're alive, they can move. It keeps you going. Well, this man was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. It just broke my heart. But what can you do? What are you going to say? I asked him, where are your kids? Oh, Allah, fulan fi Alberta, fulan here, and fulan is there. And no, they call me every week, and they go. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And their house hasn't been cleaned properly for months. Hum wa azwajuhum fi dhilalin. They and their spouses, so they're not alone. Fi dhilal, they're in the cool shade. Ala al-ara'ik, on the canopies, muttaki'un, reclining. They're relaxed. It's very chill. That anxiety and that fear that exists within life, coming from the unknown and the fear of it, that's all gone. في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة. They have their access to all of the things that they enjoy. ولهم ما يدعون, and all their desires, whatever they call for, whatever they want, it will be made available to them. Food, drink, experiences, adventures, and others. My teacher, one of Allah yarhamu, he used to tell me that the most beautiful thing in Jannah is your access to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is your access to His knowledge. You can learn whatever you want to learn. You can know whatever you want to know. Imagine how many things you don't know. Imagine how many things you would like to know. Imagine how many things that you have never heard of that you would like to experience and understand. And you just have access to divine knowledge. That divine knowledge is infinite, and you have access to it for the rest of eternity, and you continue to learn and grow. And he was most excited by the ilm, and I agree, because there's a joy in intellectual stimulation that we often underestimate the power that it has over us. Salamun, they hear the calling of salam, of peace. Qawlan is a word or things that are said min Rabbir Rahim, from a very merciful Lord. They will hear from their merciful Lord the word salam, peace be upon you. There is no war, there is no oppression, there is no dispute, there's no conflict, there's no fight. No one's suing you, no one's after you, no one's trying to get you, no one's trying to take away your stuff, no one's trying to. Salamun, you are in a place where it's peaceful. You can enjoy. Salamun qawlan min Rabbir Rahim. وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. As for the criminals, you step away. Al-imtiyaz is for you to stand out. That's why it can be used in both directions. To stand out in a good way or to stand out in a bad way. That's why in school, if you get the mumtaz, it's a big deal, right? Because you stood out. You're different in terms of on the right side. But it can be used in the opposite side, and that's what it's used here. So وَامْتَازُوا, stand out. Get out of the line. أيها المجرمون. Today, the criminals, you don't stand with them. You're not allowed to be within this group. So امتازوا, stand aside, kind of differentiate from those around you. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون. It's the wrong moment And it's the wrong direction for you to stand out. Yawm al-Qiyamah. Stand out in the wrong direction. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us. We continue, inshallah. ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان
ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان
إنه لكم عدو مبين
إنه لكم عدو مبين
وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم
وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم
ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا
ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا
أفلم تكونوا تعقلون
أفلم تكونوا تعقلون
هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون
هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون
اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون
اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون
اليوم نختم على أفواههم
اليوم نختم على أفواههم
وتكلمنا أيديهم
وتكلمنا أيديهم
وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون
وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون.
So he says subhanahu wa ta'ala as he moves on to talk about the other outcome. The first outcome, which is the one that we desire, al-Jannah, people are in leisure, they're busy, they're preoccupied with the leisure. They and their spouses, their loved ones, they're reclining, they're relaxed, they're chilled, they're happy. They have access to all that which they desire and more, and they get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the declaration of peace and ease. As for the other group, they are taken aside, they had to stand out, al-mujrimun, those who broke the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and did not listen to any of it. Before he describes the outcome, there's two verses that just are i'tiradiyya, as they say. I mean, just they cut the flow and they ask a question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, the other outcome exists, but subhanahu wa ta'ala is questioning, why does it exist? Why is this other outcome a possibility? Why are people falling into it? Alam a'hada ilaykum, did I not make a covenant with you? Ya bani Adam, O sons and daughters of Adam. Allah ta'budu shaytan, that you don't serve and follow Iblis. The ibadah here is fellowship. The ibadah in this context is to follow along blindly. Is to follow along. Allah ta'budu shaytan. You don't follow shaytan. Innahu lakum aduwwum mubin. Indeed, he is your sworn enemy. He hates humanity. He made a decision that he hated humanity. And he was going to continue to hate humanity until the day of judgment. And despite him meeting a lot of human beings and observing them, that still didn't change. He continues to hate humanity. And he could at any point make a decision to turn around, even today. But he chooses not to. He chooses to hate humanity. And he made his stance very clear to Allah. He told him, I am going to work against them. I'm going to try and prove that none of them deserve the respect that you show them. Allah says, هَذَا صِرَاطٌ عَلَيَّ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. If you're clear about what you want to do, I accept. If that's what you want to do, go ahead. Give it your best shot. إِنَّ عِبَادِي لَيْسَ لَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانٌ. My servants, you have no real control over them. You can offer them. SubhanAllah, in Ramadan, we are rid of shayateen al-jinn. We just are not ridden, unfortunately, of shayateen al-ins. We're stuck with the shayateen from the human race. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you remove the shayateen from the jinn, but not from the human beings. And it's where we get to see them. We get to see the shayateen of our race, perform the actions that they want to perform and do what they do. Understanding really that shaytan al-ins, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكِ النَّاسِ إِلَهِ النَّاسِ من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. What we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from is min al-jinn, and then from al-nas as well. And the jinn, they're much weaker. They are But why? Because they hate humanity. Those who hate human beings, who hate the human race, who hate the prosperity of the human race, who don't like themselves and don't like others, who have taught themselves to hate people who are in any way different from them, or look different, or speak different, or think different than them. This is shaitan. This is what shaitan is. Shaitan hates humanity. That's what he has no interest in anything going well for the human beings at all. He works towards no good for us at all. He has no interest in that. His hope is always to cause problems. It's always to bring fitna, to bring destruction, to bring disunity, to bring hatred, to bring death and blood and destruction. And we have people amongst us who are on the same page as shaitan is, working the same way, and behaving the same way, are rigged towards nothing but destruction and death and poverty and worsening of the socioeconomic gap that exists between people, and people are like that. There are people like that. And that's what a shaitan is. So be careful when you think about life and you think about, we are one race at the end. We are one big family. Granted, it's not a very functional family, and it's not a very good one, but it is a family at the end. We all come from Adam alayhi salam, regardless of what our races are and what our religions are. We all come from the same background. And shaitan doesn't like any of us. Shaitan he has made a decision that these creatures I'm not a fan of. So Allah said, Alam a'had ilaykum. Did I not explain to you from the beginning? Ya bani Adam, la yaftinannakum ash-shaytanu kama akhraja abawaykum min al-jannati yanzi'u anhuma libasahuma. Don't let shaitan do to you what he did to Adam and Hawa at the beginning of it all. That example that we all can refer to. Allah ta'budu shaitan, not to follow along with what shaitan wants. Why? Because he is a true enemy of yours. He has no interest in you doing well. وَأَنْ يَعْبُدُونِي, and follow what I say. هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. That will put you on hopefully now when you hear the word صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيم, you know what it means. If you've attended the weekday values and ethics and principles, you've listened to moral absolutism. You listened to what istiqamah meant, the anti-corruption. That's the صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيم, the pathway that is mustaqim. Making sure that every step of the way you're doing the right thing. It's less about the destination and more about the journey. That the journey is clean, the journey is pure. The journey is built on making the right decisions, doing the right thing every time. Your ends don't justify your means. People aren't means to you. You're always making decisions based on what's right, what I should do. هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. When you follow and listen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you learn how to live that way. You learn how to make sure that every step you're asking, what's the right thing to do here? What is corruption and what is not? And then you make the decision based on that answer. وَلَقَدْ أَضَلَّ مِنْكُمْ جِبِلًّا كَثِيرًا. And indeed, shaitan has misguided. Jibillan comes from, the word jabal is a mountain. So jibillan means a lot of people. Enough that if you stack them up, they were a mountain. That's the imagery here. So jibillan kathira, meaning many people. وَاتَّقُوا الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ وَالْجِبِلَّةَ الْأَوَّلِينَ. Be mindful of the one who created you and all of the people before you, meaning enough people that are mountains of people, of human beings. Jibillan kathira, many people before you were just misguided by shaitan. أَفَلَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْقِلُونَ. Why is it that you can't see that or understand that? That there is one who is after you to get you to make those decisions, make you think these things. Shaitan doesn't have control over you. But what he does is he can throw out ideas. Ideas that he throws them out enough times that you entertain them and you believe them. And then you lose yourself within them. And now you're engulfed by this idea. It's an idea that's wrong, an idea that takes away your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your acceptance of His teachings, His acceptance of what it is that He brought. You lose your ability to see people within the lens that you need to see them, within the perspective that you should have of them. It takes away your ability to see life for what it is and your message here on earth for to be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant it to be. Shaitan just wants to throw out enough of these ideas so that you're confused and don't know what to do, and then hopefully you make the wrong one. If you make a lot of options, you lessen the possibility of the person choosing the correct one, right? If there's only 2 boxes, you have a 50% chance of making the right choice. Put 1,000,000 boxes. Now, the most likely is you're not going to make the right choice. So shaitan just keeps on throwing things out. Here, what about this? You like this one? How about that one? Just a catalog opener. Here's all the You still make your choices. It's still going to be you, but he has no interest in you making the right one. He'll never ever open up something that's khair for you. And even if you think it is khair, it isn't. وَخَالِدِ الشَّيْطَانَ وَالنَّفْسَ وَعْصِهِمَا وَإِنْهُمَا مَحَّضَاكَ النُّصْحَ فَاتَّهِمِ. And always go against what shaitan and the nafs tell you. And even if they give you the best advice in the world, question that advice. There's always a catch. There's always a reason why they're telling you it. And if you learn in your life to differentiate between the thoughts, the positive thoughts that you are granted, versus what shaitan and what the nafs develop for you, if you learn to differentiate, then it makes it much easier for you to navigate your choices. It makes it much easier, because never will shaitan or nafs give you an idea that is good. It'll always be negative. There's always selfish. There's always corrupt somewhere. And if you can learn to pick that up, then you'll make better choices. That's the end of this little piece of. It's almost like a hasra, as he said subhanahu wa ta'ala in the 2 pages before. Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. How sad it is, the affairs of the human being. So before he describes Jahannam to us, he asks, Alam a'had ilaykum, why are you here? Did I not tell you from the beginning not to follow shaitan? Why did you follow him? Why did you end up here? You didn't need to be here. هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون. This is Jahannam that you were promised. اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. Enter it undignified today, based on your lack of gratitude. اليوم, today, نختم على أفواههم. We seal shut their mouths. وتكلمنا أيديهم, and their hands will speak to us. وتشهد أرجلهم, and their feet will bear witness. بما كانوا يكسبون, based on what it is that they achieved in their lives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not interested in listening to us speak Yawm al-Qiyamah. We had our time. We spoke our mind. We said what we wanted to say. Yawm al-Qiyamah, when we are brought for judgment, He will make sure everything else has a chance to speak. Did you do this? No. Okay, hand. Did you do this? And the hand will say, yes, I picked it up. I pulled it. I stole it. I hid it. I slammed it. I did it. Foot, did you walk? Yes, we walked. وَقَالُوا لِجُلُودِهِمْ لِمَ شَهِدْتُمْ عَلَيْنَا. And the human being will talk to his skin. Why did you speak? I didn't know you could speak. But if you could, why would you do this? Why would you bear witness against us? إِنِّي عَنْكُمْ كُنْتُ أُنَافِحْ. I was defending me and you. Like you're gonna. قَالُوا أَنْطَقَنَا اللَّهُ. The one who gave us the command to speak is Allah. الَّذِي أَنْطَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. The one who commanded everything to speak. وَهُوَ خَلَقَكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And He is the one who created you at the beginning. وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. You all return to Him. وَمَا كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَتِرُونَ أَنْ يَشْهَدَ عَلَيْكُمْ سَمْعُكُمْ وَلَا أَبْصَارُكُمْ وَلَا جُلُودُكُمْ. And you never thought for a moment that maybe you need to hide from your skin and your hands and your feet when you perform sin. You didn't think about that one. وَلَكِنْ ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَعْلَمُ كَثِيرًا مِمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. And you thought maybe Allah doesn't really pay attention to a lot of that which you're doing. وَذَلِكُمْ ظَنُّكُمُ الَّذِي ظَنَنْتُمْ بِرَبِّكُمْ أَرْدَاكُمْ. And it's that bad assumption that you had in Allah that has led to your demise. فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And today you're amongst those who lost. Today, نَخْتِمُ عَلَى أَفْوَاهِهِمْ. You will silence them. No need. You've spoken enough. Tell us, O hand, O foot, heart, eyes, ears. Tell us, what did you hear? What did you look at? What did you do? O tongue, tell us, what did you say? It'll explain. This is what happened. You can lie to people as much as you like. You can't lie to yourself. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, the self will bear witness, will give its testimony on that day of why you actually did what you did, what the real reason behind all of it was. It's very, very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. We hate doing that. We hate admitting that the intention was corrupt. We hate admitting that we didn't mean well when we did this. We actually meant harm. We don't want to, because it's so demeaning. It's so difficult. Yawm al-Qiyamah, this is what happens. Yawm al-Qiyamah, all of that gets exposed. Oh, I didn't notice this when you did. Oh, I didn't think of that when you did. Oh, I didn't mean it when you did. Yawm al-Qiyamah, oh yeah, I didn't mean it. And then a part of you speaks, no, we knew. We noticed it from the beginning. It was on our mind. It was there from the beginning, but we knew that no one could prove it. No one could prove that we noticed it. And since no one can prove it, then we just we stood by that narrative because it's impossible for you to prove otherwise. But not for Allah, it isn't. And that day, it'll all... See, a qalb hay, a heart that's alive, is aware of that stuff. So it doesn't allow itself to arrive at this moment. It doesn't allow itself to arrive at that moment. It makes the right decisions beforehand. We'll read the last two verses, inshallah, and then let you go. وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَطَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون And if we wished, if we willed, if we wanted to, لَطَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ, you would have closed down their eyes. You would have blinded them. طَمَسْنَا. Tams is when you turn something off or you put a barrier in front of it. You'd have put a barrier in front of their eyes so you couldn't see. فَاسْتَبَقُوا الصِّرَاطَ. And they were told, go ahead, run towards the sirat so that you may cross. فَأَنَّا يُبْصِرُونَ. How are they going to see? وَلَوْ نَشَاء. And if we willed, لَمَسَخْنَاهُمْ. الْمَسْخ is when you are transformed into something different than what you actually are. لَمَسَخْنَاهُمْ عَلَى مَكَانَتِهِمْ. We would have transformed them into objects that can't move and are rooted in their own spots. Al-makana, it can be used figuratively as a status, as a state, but it can also be referred to a place. So, لَمَسَخْنَاهُمْ عَلَى مَكَانَتِهِمْ. We would have transformed them into objects that are stuck in their spots. They're a part of the floor. They can't. They're not. I'm separate from the floor. I can move around. If you're a part of the floor, you can't move. لَمَسَخْنَاهُمْ عَلَى مَكَانَتِهِمْ. We would have transformed them to something that can't move anymore. فَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا مُضِيًّا. So they can't move forward. وَلَا يَرْجِعُونَ. They can't move backwards either. Interestingly enough, these verses, when you're reading them, they sound. They're a continuation of what was being spoken. This is Jahannam that you were promised. Enter it today because of your kufr. Today you don't get to speak, but everything will bear witness against you. And if we want, we can allow you to go to sirat with no eyesight. So how are you going to cross? Or we can fixate you to the ground so that you can't move to begin with. The Tahir ibn Ashur, rahimahullah, in Tahrir, he actually thinks that these two verses are referring to dunya, not to akhirah, which I find to be a fascinating catch. He believes that these وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَطَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ is not talking about Yawm al-Qiyamah, when people are trying to cross the sirat, which is a very acceptable interpretation of these verses, and it works beautifully, and you can stick to that if it makes it easier to understand the surah. But Tahir ibn Ashur, rahimahullah, he thought that this was referring to dunya, meaning in dunya he could have, subhanahu wa ta'ala, made no choice for you to begin with. He could have forced you to this, meaning, وَلَوْ نَشَاء, if we wanted, back in dunya, لَطَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ. We could have closed down their insights. أَعْيُنِهِمْ here, الطَّمْسْ عَلَى الْأَعْيُن, in Arabic, the figure of speech is not just that you're blinded, but that you lose insight as well, which is what the Quran is more interested in. فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. It's not eyes that go blind, it's hearts that go blind. And this is the interest that the Quran has in terms of where again, same thing, the life of the heart and the blindness of the heart is the problem, really. It's not many blind people are much more open-minded and much more knowledgeable than many of those who walk around seeing everything. Yeah. وَلَوْ نَشَاءَ, if we wanted, we would have made their experience in dunya, and طَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ. They would have no ability to see, no insight. فَاسْتَبَقُوا الصِّرَاطَ, and then they're told, go, follow the way, the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَنَّا يُبْصِرُونَ, because he said a few verses before, وَأَنِ اعْبُدُونِي, and follow me, هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. This is a straight path for you to walk on. If we wanted, we would have blinded them in dunya, so they would have no access to it to begin with. They would have no way to even know where it was, but we didn't do that. We allowed them. And if we wanted in dunya, لَمَسَخْنَاهُمْ عَلَى مَكَانَتِهِمْ, we would have transformed them to creatures that don't have the ability to move in any direction. فَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا مُضِيًّا وَلَا يَرْجِعُونَ. They couldn't move at all. Meaning we could have easily forced them, put them in a position where they had no choice to begin with. They had no insight to choose the right path, and they would have no ability to move in any direction. They were forced like everything else. Al-masakh, I mean, they're transformed into something different. You're a human being who can choose right and wrong. We could have made you something that couldn't choose anything. You were stuck where you are, but we didn't. We gave you choice, and you made the wrong one. He gave you choice, but your lack of insight and your qalb was dead, and you couldn't see it. And you couldn't appreciate it, and you couldn't accept it, so you didn't. That's how he understands the ayat, rahmatullah alayhi. And I find it to be very meaningful. Going back, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the beginning of it all. We could have taken away from you the faculties that will allow you to make the right choices, but we didn't. You had the faculties to make the right choices. You just failed to do so. We'll end with that, inshallah. We'll continue next week. Subhanallah, bihamdik, shadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa